Hi, and welcome to Finishing the Semester Strong. I'm your host, Lisa Mladinich, and I'm talking with Maureen Wittmann. Maureen is the co-founder of Homeschool Connections, a homeschooling mom, and an author and speaker in the homeschooling world. Welcome, Maureen, and welcome, everybody.
Lisa, how are you?
Oh, doing great. Thank you. It's always so good to be with you. We have some really important questions here that we get frequently from parents, and you've been homeschooling a long time, and you're sort of our go-to mom. So let's start with how do I keep the children focused as we're winding down the semester? Things can get pretty fragmented at this time of year.
They sure can. And the funny thing is that the end of the typical semester always seems to come right around the holy days, right? So Lent, Advent, as well as that long summer break. So yeah, the question is, how do we keep that focus amidst all these Advent festivities, getting ready for Christmas, Lenten reflections, getting ready for Easter, and then all that sunshine after that long winter. Yeah, well, if you live in Michigan where I am, yeah, April gets here, the ice breaks, you need to get outside. So, how do we keep that focus with all that looming at the end? I think first we just need to figure out how we can experience a holy Advent, how we can experience a holy Lent while still staying focused on our academics and not getting, too sidetracked. So I think there's a few things we can do to accomplish that. I think one, we need to ask ourselves, what seasonal activities are also educational, right? So when my kids were little, and now my daughter's doing with their children, have a Jessie tree, right? So, how can we make that part of our homeschool? Well, when we put the ornament on the Jessie tree each day, we're also reading the scripture that goes with it, reflecting on that. We should be maybe having a discussion with our children, and boom, we've just done theology, right? You don't want too much overwhelm at the end of the semester, and that can happen, when we're mixing up holiday prep into the mix. So, what can we put aside? Jenny Bales, who writes a really nice mom-to-mom blog for us at the Homeschool Connections blog, just did a really nice article on keeping the peace during the holidays. And one thing she says is whenever you add something, subtract something else, right?
That's so smart. We don't think about that. We think we have to do everything and.
Right. And decide which activities are really necessary. I mean, do you have to do a Jessie tree and, picture books every day and, St. Nicholas and St. Lucia, pick a few things that are really going to enhance your homeschool, enhance your family life, but not overwhelm you too much. And, and same with Lenten activities and getting ready for summer as well. So yes, think about, okay, if I'm going to add this Jessie tree, what can I subtract? Well, an example we just showed, you can subtract theology lessons, or at least, shorten them up a little bit, because you are covering that in your Advent activity. So that's one thing we can do.
I can see that for making a warmer and more loving homeschool during that period too. Just reducing stress, being commonsensical about it, I guess.
And isn't it part of why we homeschool? It's the family life. It's it's not just academics. It's the family life. So how can we get those two things in sync, that healthy family life, that spiritual life, as well as our academics? So conversely, what part of our curriculum lends itself to the holiday celebrations, right? So I'm sure, like most homeschoolers, I always had read aloud time, right? After lunch, we always sit down. That was our read aloud time. So maybe during Advent, during Lent, we replace our read aloud books with something that goes with the season, right? So, a Christmas carol can be read to children of all ages. It's Dickens, it's classical literature.
Oh,
it's
fantastic.
So to read, right, Lisa?
Yes. It's a beautiful read aloud, as you've said before. It's a great family book. It's perfect.
It's funny, when I reread that a few years ago with my kids, I forgot, because I hadn't read it since I was a child, and it was just so fun to read. And so look at your curriculum and say, okay, how can what we're doing already lend itself to the holiday? So I think that's going to help you. Those three things are going to help you stay focused with the looming, end of the semester. or with the end of the semester looming, those things are going to help you kind of stay on track.
Oh,
And
that's
keep
so
the
great.
joy. You got to keep the joy in your homeschool.
Right. That nice common sense approach. Where can I find activities that enhance the season, but let something else go? And then what do we sort of have to do, but that we can look for that connection to the season, what lends itself? What's the next, probably most pressing question is how do we motivate our teens? Our teens can be just so sensitive to so many influences and very easy for them to fall off track. How do we help them to stay motivated?
Yeah, and we want them to do their best work. It's funny. So many people are afraid of the teen years, and I loved the teen years. Now it was a little bit easier years ago because we didn't have all this social media, but they're reading interesting books. They have interesting questions. You're not having to read Barney books. So, but teens are also entering a completely different stage of their life, and they can be sometimes hard to motivate. I mean, I've had teens who are naturally motivated and others who are just really hard work, who are maybe a little sullen or so, what do we do? And I think probably the most important thing, at least for me, is to always remember that emotions are contagious, right? If I want my teens to be motivated, then I need to be modeling that. I need to model motivation for my teens. I need them to see my face light up at a new discovery. I need to let them see my excitement when I open a new book, oh my goodness, a new book came from, and just delivered and I'm sitting down, I'm reading, let them see, my excitement. Let them hear my oohs and ahs if we take a nature walk together, and, really don't leave the nature walks for the young kids. Get out there with your team, get outside. There's nothing like fresh air to wake you guys up, right?
That connection with nature too, as soon as the weather allows. There's also studies on the benefits psychologically and intellectually just to being out in nature, and it lifts your spirits, doesn't it?
And I live in Michigan, so we don't wait for the nice weather. Otherwise, you never go outside. So my kids,
hardy folk.
right? They ski, they skate. Yeah, we get out even in the cold. You just gotta bundle up.
Beautiful.
And the other thing I think, you need to challenge your teen, to look for God and discovery. Find God's hand in your. I remember seeing a talk some years ago. Whose father? I can't remember now, but. He many years ago, it's 25, 30 years ago. And he said, the only thing you teach your children in your homeschool is to love God and his church. You're a success. And the reason for that is if they really do love God and his church, they'll be excited to learn about his creation and how he created the world. So science, God is the author of science. If they can see God's hand in that, that'll help create an excitement for wanting to learn science. Math is orderly, right? Just as God is orderly. Look at how God participated in history, how God's beauty can be found in art and music, or when studying literature, really good literature always reflects the good, the true, and the beautiful. I mean, every awful book I've ever read has, that's why it doesn't reflect, there's no redemption at the end. So,
so much nihilism in modern literature, and sometimes there are some good modern books, but we certainly do often reach for those classics, don't we? When we want a redemptive story or a story that just reveals something of God, even if it's not explicit.
Right. So, when your child's reading, you're giving them a reading list for the semester, sit down at the kitchen table, so I have a regular day that I look at my son's planner, right? So pick out a day, maybe Friday mornings, you make their favorite treat, you have coffee, hot chocolate, whatever they like. It's your special time together. And talk about the books they're reading. It's the rhetoric stage. They like to talk. Let them talk. Ask their ideas. Don't just lecture to them. What is it you liked about that book or you didn't like? Was there redemption in it? Did it reflect the good, the true, and the beautiful? And just have a nice discussion together.
Mm.
Sorry, waving bye to my husband.
It's nice during that stage too, because teens sometimes may not open up as much on Friday morning unless they get into that habit with you. They tend to want to talk late at night when you want to be asleep, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
but I feel like if you do what you just described, which was make it an attractive time when they have your undivided attention and you're asking questions, you're not talking at them about the book, you're
Yeah.
not imposing your thoughts, but I loved the way you framed it.
Yeah, we used to go to
What
the
do you
coffee
see?
shop. We met with all the teens, so all the local teens. We all got together at the coffee shop every Tuesday at 1, and we drank coffee and had treats, and it was motivating. I mean, it motivated my teens to read because they were meeting with the other kids, and it was a regular time. They knew they could count on it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I've done that one-on-one too, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they know they can count on your attention during that time. So.
Mm.
Yeah.
What else motivates them? How do you draw that out of them?
Um, I think something else you need to do is talk about life after high school. They're not going to be in high school forever, believe it or
Mm-hmm.
not.
Boo-hoo.
Right? We like to do some career exploration. I have my son right now who's a senior, just finished up a project where he picked 3 different careers, and then he
Mm.
had to do research in each career. So, what kind of schooling do I need? Where can I find mentors? What do I need to do in high school to be prepared, etc. So, maybe some career exploration that'll help them discover the end goal to their academics. So let's say, for example, your child wants to be a computer programmer. Well, they're going to be more motivated to do their formal logic. They're going to be more motivated to do their math because they know they need those skills to be a computer programmer. So I think that's a big help.
I think that's great because then they're taking some initiative. They're making choices and they're learning. Again, they're having this practice of kind of taking charge, driving their own bus in a sense. I'm going to steer towards this one and this one. I'm going to dive into that. Take a look.
Exactly. Yeah, they let them have ownership of their education. It's not about me, I'm the primary educator, but I remember once I used to run a teen Socrates cafe where we met every week and we did Socratic discussion. And we had someone sit in one time, another adult, and he asked the students, so who teaches you? And all these teenagers said, we teach ourselves. Yeah, our moms taught us when we were little how to read. And then after that, I didn't need her anymore.
Exactly. I'm glad they recognize that. Well, yeah, but
yeah,
I mean,
they need to be able to have some say in their direction, and that's going to help motivate them too if they have some ownership of their education.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So right. All right. So here's the big one, especially if you got a lot of kids, but I only homeschooled one child and I struggled with this too. How do we keep good records for our children?
Yeah, that is not as daunting as it sounds, I don't think. Probably the most important thing is don't put it off. And I am as much, I've done it myself. So I'm telling you from experience, don't put it off.
Mm-hmm.
Just spend time each quarter. An hour each quarter is really all you really need to keep on top of that record keeping. Sit down, go through your child's grades, go through, ask yourself questions like, what do I need to keep, right? So if you go to homeschoolconnections.com, we have lots of free resources there, including transcript forms with simple instructions. So, lists of the kinds of things you need to keep track of in your record keeping. So I would start there. Make sure you're spending an hour each quarter. Go to homeschool.
Is that per child? Is that an hour per child, Maureen?
Yeah, I would say per child. It's the more children you have, it's going to be a little bit less because you're getting it all done together. But yeah, it's really not. A lot of time my husband would take the kids to the library or whatever when they were little, and that was my time to do, my planning and my record keeping. And you want to make sure that you store your records well, right? So I always say 3 places. I'm going to be obsessive, but I like having a physical record. I like having it on my computer, and I like having it on the cloud. So I used to save it to a CD or a stick, but now I put it up like on Dropbox or Google Drive. So I have it on my computer, then I also save it there. And so that's just in case you have a computer crash, heaven forbid, a house fire. That does happen. So just want to make sure you have files every place. I like paper files because I'm just old school. I like to touch and feel things.
Mm-hmm.
But then I move that also onto the computer. Make sure you clearly label everything. So on my computer, I have folders for each child. So, with their name, it's labeled. And then within that file, I might have, or that folder, I may have subfolders like transcript, the career exploration project, things like that. Just so it's real easy. So, if I'm filling out a FAFSA form or my student needs something they need their SAT score, I can find it really easy on my computer or in Dropbox just by doing a quick search of their name.
Would that be a good place also to save essays and narratives and things like that for future reference, for kind of cool memories and great learning experiences they might want to share in, say, a college application essay?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good idea. I would keep any essays that really stand out. When they do something that's really spectacular, yeah, save that. And yeah, when it comes time to fill out that college app and they have to do an essay, it's going to relieve some stress if you can pull out an essay and say, hey, you already did this one. Maybe you could work around that,
Mm-hmm. Might even be a good idea to have them just note once a month what were their most interesting learning experiences or just what stood out for them from the month, so that they just have a little bit of a log, even just a few bullet points, so that they have something to draw from later on. Just a thought.
Yeah, and then then you're also putting that in their lap, right? Where they're doing a little, not really record keeping, and that may also go to motivation, where when they're doing that, it's making them stop and think, okay, what have I learned? What did I enjoy about that learning experience? How would I do it differently? Yeah. And then that's also something they can go back and look at when they're filling out a college application.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that might
Who
be a
inspires
great
me
topic for my essay. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right. Just want to remind everyone to go to homeschoolconnections.com, and we have a tab at the top on the nav bar that just says free resources. And there's all sorts of things there. Is there anything else that you would want to close with as far as recommendations?
I think we need to talk about what we're going to keep in those files. What do we need to keep? So, I think there are two things, Lisa, that we need to consider. One is, what do I need in case I'm accused of truancy? So that's rare, but it does happen. Just follow Homeschool Legal Defense Association and you'll see. So for that, I always kept a paper file of just samples of my kids' work, just the most recent samples. So, if my child's finished Algebra 1, I don't need pre-algebra stuff, right? I know they know pre-algebra because I can prove they finished algebra. So just some samples, year-end samples of work or semester-end samples. Also need standardized testing. If you do, some states require standardized testing. Where I live in Michigan, it's not required, but I would do it every 2 years. And so I would keep those in a folder, just because that shows that their learning is increasing each year. So that education is in fact taking place. So, I would keep those files. The other thing is you want to keep records for post-high school. So are they going to go to trade school, or they can go to college? So you may need records for that. So what kinds of things do you want? Well, I keep a list of all the books read, which isn't really necessary. I don't know, but I love looking at it at the end of the year. Say, oh my, look at all the books we read. It's impressive. And then you can always pull that out if you have some naysaying relative, ask what you do all day. So I keep a list of books read, the career exploration project, any awards, right? So in the transcript, there's an area for things like awards, sports. So my kids did shooting sports. I have a daughter who did horseback riding, maybe social clubs. So, are they the president of the pro-life club? Are they the secretary of the debate club? Volunteer work, all those kinds of things go on a transcript. And then something else I would do too is, if you have a special needs child, make sure you're including any testing. So, if your child is dyslexic and needs accommodation on the SAT or the ACT test, you need to have proof. So you get time and a half, right? So that would also be a place for any kind of testing or assessments you've had done. So yeah,
it's a lot to think about, isn't it?
it is, but it's not that hard because it's, you just sit down and you can go through that list of things. Okay, what sports are my kids doing? Have they won any awards? What community work? A lot of colleges want to know, especially elite colleges. How are you active in the community? So it's not just grades, right? It's what we're doing in everyday life. And as homeschoolers, we have so many more opportunities to be out in the community and volunteer at the soup kitchen or do funeral luncheons at church, whatever. All that can go on a college application. So yeah, keep a record of it.
Wonderful. Wonderful to see just how much gets accomplished too. When young people who are conventionally educated have very little free time just to enjoy a good book or to really be a part of the community in a meaningful way.
And record keeping, always, you should look forward to it, because the thing about it is when you, like you just said, right, when you sit down and you write all this out, you see how much you've accomplished. Because if homeschool moms or other homeschool moms are like me, there are times I think, what have we accomplished? And then I sit down and look at that. Oh, we accomplished quite a bit.
I feel like the standardized tests help with that too, because you get to see that your child is tracking in terms of percentile with other peers at about their grade level. So you know that you're at least accomplishing that. But then all the other things show you so much more than just that. Right,
because our ultimate goal is heaven, not Harvard, right?
Right.
So our ultimate goal is their soul. And all of so homeschooling is much more than just what we're going to be putting down as far as grades. And you're going to see that in looking at volunteer work and social clubs and things like that too.
Just great stuff.
We're educating leaders for the world,
That's right. We're raising adults. We're not raising children. We're not raising fill in the blanks. That's a whole other topic. All right. Any closing thoughts, Maureen?
I don't think so. I think we've covered things pretty well. We've kept this hopefully short and sweet and understandable for people. And I'm so glad that, God has given me the opportunity to homeschool my children. And so I think my closing thought is just keep the joy in your homeschool and never forget what a blessing it is.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, everyone, for watching, for being here with us virtually. To find out more about Homeschool Connections, please do visit homeschoolconnections.com. Lots of great resources there for you, and hopefully we'll see you again.
God bless you all. Thank you, Lisa.